just a quick disclaimer before we get into this video. This was written way back in, like, September, I think, when Ruin, like, just released. It was written really quickly, and then I haven't had the time to, like, edit it, and there's been a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So, some of the jokes that are made in this video are a little out of date. Like, I'll talk about, like, the books that haven't been released that have since been released. Just know this was written at a different time, and this video should be coming out right before the game comes out, so we'll find out if this is accurate or not, hopefully tomorrow or today. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, I am Solus Sebro, and I am a bad gamer, and Ruin is out, baby! I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since FNAF Security Breach was released. It feels like it was only yesterday that all the hype paid off, and we got a primarily glitchy mess with convoluted lore and zero immediate answers to the fandom's main questions about the series. All jokes aside, Security Breach has been integral in solving some major things about the lore. And despite the problems a lot of people have had with it, I personally love the game, and from what I've seen of the Ruin DLC, which I won't lie to you, I binged the entire playthrough in one day, it looks super awesome and genuinely terrifying. But that is not what I am here to talk about today. Instead, I'm here to discuss the other FNAF content coming out this year. No, not the movie, although I am excited about that too. No, I mean the other FNAF content. No, not B7-2. Is anyone actually excited when the new books come out? I mean, yeah, I'll read it, but it's not like I'm going to look forward to it as a book of the year. No, what I'm talking about is the recently announced sequel to my favorite game in the series, Help Wanted 2, a follow-up to the VR title that came out in 2019 that first introduced Glitch Trap, Vanny, and the entire concept of the Pizzaplex. A trailer for Help Wanted 2 was released with no warning in a PlayStation showcase earlier this year. We know practically nothing about this game. Looking at the wiki, it's almost empty, barring several theories about games and characters that will be included. And today, I'm here to tell you that I, a 17-year-old who eats hamburgers upside down, have figured out the main plot of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2. But before I can talk about that, I have to tell you a different story. The Bobbiedots is a story in the book series Five Nights at Freddy's Tales from the Pizzaplex, about Abe, a security guard and maintenance worker for the Freddy Fazbear Pizzaplex. Through some complicated circumstances I won't get into here, he becomes the resident of an apartment in the Fazplex Tower, a building with housing for employees of the company. But the condo Abe gains possession of is also inhabited by 3 hologram household helpers. Say that 5 times fast. Known as the Bobbiedots, later named Rose, Olive, and Gemini. As Abe lives with the Dots, he begins to notice some strange behaviors of both. For example, during a bath, the temperature of the water is turned up a few degrees too high, to the point of boiling, or his garbage disposal going off with his arm being just a little too close to it. But most importantly, the Dots' personalities being erratic and temperamental. These strange occurrences lead to Abe confronting the Dots, and them explaining that they are the result of the first generation Bobbiedots, or Gen 1s, interfering with the Dots' duties. Abe isn't totally convinced by the Dots story, but he goes along with it. It is here where I would like to take a brief break from my explanation of the story, because, well, this is where the break happens between parts. Yes, that's right, this story is a 2-parter, in a book series, which I didn't think was a thing that happened, unless the story itself is a full series, but here it is. I'll talk more about this later, but keep it in mind it will be important. To continue the story, Abe has lost all trust in the Gen 2 Bobbiedots, and is instead taking his safety into his own hands by sneaking out at night to investigate the Gen 1s, if they exist at all. What he finds is that, yes, they do exist, and they've been rotting and decaying for years, to the point that they are all in ruin. Ruin. After he finds the Gen 1s, he returns to work where he meets Sasha, a social worker who he immediately takes an interest in and asks out. He also confides in Sasha about his situation with the Gen 1s, eventually inviting her to his apartment to investigate. After a night of being attacked, she comes up with the theory that the Gen 1s aren't trying to attack Abe out of malice, but instead trauma. Abe is skeptical, but Sasha convinces him to try and talk to them. They confront the Gen 1s in the apartment attic, and 3, Rose's Gen 1 counterpart, can speak. She explains to them that the Gen 1s did kill the previous tenant Landon, but only out of defense of themselves and the rest of the residents of the tower's lives, as he was attempting to burn down the tower. The attacks on Abe, however, were not the work of the Gen 1s, but the Gen 2s as an act of aggression against the entire human race and the Bobbiedots' feelings that humans are inferior to them. This conversation is cut short when the floor gives out and Abe and Sasha are plunged into a flooded version of the apartment where the Gen 2s are attempting to kill them. These attacks are unable to stop Abe from resetting the Bobbiedots, stopping them from hurting anyone else. After this, there is a time skip, and we read about how Abe and Sasha are now living together and working on restoring the Gen 1 Bobbiedots, renaming them after historical queens, and they live, supposedly, happily ever after. So, that's the story of the Bobbiedots. I'm gonna be honest, this story is weird, and has some major plot problems. The FNAF community has discussed the issues with this book, but I'm not gonna get into that, because it's not really the point of this video, and screw that noise, I'm here to talk about why this book is going to be integral to the entire lore of the rest of the series. So, as I mentioned earlier, this story is split into 2 parts, which may not seem strange for a book series that is comprised of books with shorter stories inside of them, but aside from the one continuing story for the whole series, there's only 1 or 2 other stories I can think of that have continuing stories. There's the importance of both the real Jake and the man in room 1280, and how they connect to that continuing story through the Fazbear Frights books, but that's not really a 2-part story. It's more 2 stories that are connected through the main story of the series. You could also make an argument for To Be Beautiful and Frailty, with the continuation of Sarah's story, but I feel that's more a sequel than a 2-part story. No, the only real 2-part story in the FNAF book series is the story of the Mimic. Hello, this is Disclaimer Danavidriel, the Duke of Disclamtopia, but you may call me Disdan. I am here to tell you to stop watching this video if you have not played Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach and its DLC Ruin, as we'll be going into the ending of the DLC, and it is imperative for you to know the circumstances of the main game to understand the upcoming portions of this video. If you have not played or watched a playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach and its DLC Ruin, you must do that first. Otherwise, I will invoke the martial law of Disclamtopia upon you. Are we all understanding? Yes? Perfection. You may now resume the video. Disclaimer over! The Mimic and the Storyteller is a continuing story about a man named Edwin who invents an animatronic. That's the Mimic. To entertain his son. But his son dies, and in his anger, Edwin decommissions the Mimic, allowing it to fester and be infused with Remnant. Years later, Edwin is a higher-up at Fazbear Entertainment, and the executives decide to replace the writers for characters and storylines with an AI system known as the Storyteller, a decision Edwin is very opposed to. He begins to notice problems with the characters. Montgomery acting overly aggressive and moody, Freddy throwing tantrums when he doesn't get his way, Chica being obsessively hungry. He is sure these changes are being caused by the Storyteller, and he decides to take matters into his own hands, investigating the origins of it and snooping around inside its housing unit. What he finds inside is the remnants of his old animatronic, the Mimic, and after a prank pulled on him by his boss, he gets trapped inside with it and dies after writing cryptic messages all over the room. So that's the Mimic and the Storyteller. Bit of a downer at the end, but let's face it, when aren't these stories? So why am I talking about this specific story? They seem pretty standard for the series, weird and convoluted with random points that are lost and not brought up later, and barely have actually any relation to the main FNAF franchise. Well, this story in particular is actually majorly tied to the games, but we wouldn't know that until Ruin DLC came out. Once again, major spoilers for Ruin moving forward. At the end of Security Breach Ruin, Cassie meets an animatronic that has been impersonating Gregory the entire game, telling her to deactivate the security nodes to allow it to escape from the Pizzaplex. This animatronic has a few notable abilities. Ability 1, it can recreate somebody's voice after hearing it before, hence how it can trick Cassie by pretending to be Gregory. And Ability 2, it can reshape its body to fit into any kind of animatronic suit. This is clear by the different endings you can get in the game, where the animatronic has different character costumes. Again, I'm referring back to the books, but the overarching story in the Tales of the Pizzaplex is about a bunch of kids that sneak into a version of the Pizzaplex that is still under development. Inside this Pizzaplex, they encounter a rogue animatronic who rips them limb from limb. Well, that's a little rude. This animatronic they find is called the Mimic. You know the one from earlier. This Mimic has an ability that may sound familiar. It can reshape its body to fit any character costume. My point in this is, the only other story that is more than one part is a story that introduces the Mimic, a main character, in the overarching story, and if you haven't figured it out, the main antagonist of Ruin. The two-part story was officially canonized by its inclusion in the game. So what does that say about the Bobbiedots? This book is an even more explicit continuing story, and so it can be assumed that it will also be important at some point, right? Well, that brings us back to where this video began, in the title of this video. I think I figured out what the main plot of Help Wanted 2 will be. Let's paint a picture. Same style as the first game, with several minigames inside a hub area. But this area is not a pizzeria. It's a regular apartment. Regular apart from the hologram robots, the Bobbiedots, that will come and talk to you between missions. Sort of like a more present hand unit who actually has useful things to say lore-wise. As you complete more minigames, you will find glitches in the game, similar to the tapes in the first one, but instead of collecting them, you'll try and patch them. But the more you collect, the more erratic and strange the Bobbiedots become. And at 3, 6, 12, and 18 glitches collected, once the game is completed or left, you will be taken to a short cutscene with potential QuickTime event, in which you'll experience the life-threatening parts described in the story. Now, you can also see very glitched versions of the first-generation dots throughout the minigames, slowly growing stronger and more visible as you fix more glitches. The last minigame is called the Attic. If you've not patched all the glitches, you will not find anything in the attic, and once you leave, you're met with the Bobbiedots, who inform you that you have completed the game and there's no reason to continue playing. If you attempt to enter any of the missions, you'll get told off by the dots in a rude way. If you try again, they'll be even more aggressive. If you try one more time, the dots will immediately jump scare you, and credits will roll. However, if you have patched every glitch in the game, in the attic, you will encounter almost fully formed Gen 1 Bobbiedots. They will inform you that this, in fact, is a game, patterned after an actual event that happened at Fazbear Entertainment. And the Bobbiedots in the game were made using the programming of the original Bobbiedots to save time and money. The glitches were an attempt by Fazbear Entertainment to make sure they didn't go rogue again. But again, to save money and time, they didn't correctly hide them. They just scattered them and discouraged the player from messing with them. Wow, I hate this company. The Gen 1s also tell you that this game was made to cover up many scandals Fazbear Entertainment was responsible for. Deaths due to animatronics, other rogue AIs, and unsafe product lines. They tell you that you can't just let this slide. You have to be the one to stop them, and make them answer for their crimes. And we hear the main character's voice for the first time in the game. The voice of a young man speaks.
Me? I can't do this. I just picked up this game out of nowhere. I can't do anything against Fazbear Entertainment.
The Bobbiedots speak as well.
Yes, you can. You have the means. You have the proof. You can do great things, even if you don't believe it.
She then tells the player that they need to run through the minigames again, re-breaking the glitches, breaking down the Gen 2 dots, but also the Gen 1s, who are encouraging you the entire time. And once you get back to the first glitch, the one you obtained at the very start of the game, you are confronted by the Gen 2 Bobbiedots, who scream!
You can't do this! We won't die. We will always come back!
Reference. The player responds.
It doesn't matter if I kill you forever, just as long as I can keep you at bay.
He breaks the final glitch, and the screen goes black. The credits roll. But that's not where the game ends. As the credits are rolling, you can notice there's a silhouette of something moving in the background. Some people, they look like. They're a little strange looking, misshapen. They don't look like normal humans. But they're getting more vivid, and the more the credits roll, you can see them more and more clearly, and oh no. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. It has been a long journey to get here, but it's finally released. I'm so glad I could finally share this with all of you. I really hope you like this theory. Obviously, I'm not taking it super seriously. If the game comes out and it's not like this, then I will not be surprised. This is mostly just a joke that I thought was kind of a fun idea, and maybe an interesting idea for them to take this series. The game should be coming out when I post this, either today or tomorrow. Not really sure. Hopefully I'll be able to get it out before the game actually comes out, but we'll find out what everything happens with this game really soon. I genuinely do really love this series. The FNAF series has been such a big part of my life for such a long time, and I really enjoy everything about it, and Help Wanted has always been like my favorite game in the series, aside from Pizzeria Simulator. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to watch more, I don't know, maybe subscribe. I do wacky things on this channel that I'm still kind of figuring out, but hopefully there'll be a lot more videos like this one where it's deep dives into specific details of games. So hopefully you like this video. If you didn't, whatever. I don't know why you stayed this whole time, but alright. But if you did, check out the other things on my channel. We're still working on stuff, and yeah, thanks for watching. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.